Okay, so it's been a little while since I was on. The last time I was on, it was actually a few weeks ago. I just finally got that last video uploaded talking about, women, are you worth dying for? Are you a woman worth dying for? And I wanted to kind of update a little bit. I do apologize. I was going to get that in. I ended up having to go deal with some medical stuff as well as some other things and a little bit of change in my life. So anyway, I wanted to kind of go back and talk about that woman of value. I think sometimes we just get really focused on ourselves, and when we do that, we tend to be selfish. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the video. We don't realize that our selfishness can really cause some damage in relationships. When we're not caring about the needs of another person and we're only caring about ourselves, the problem that we have is that we end up causing them to stumble, trip, fall, whatever it is, without even trying. It's just, here we are doing our own thing, locked in our own world. So a woman of value is someone who they can be approached and be told, listen, this isn't working, or this isn't, like, your attitude isn't quite right, or we've talked about this before, what's going on, why is it that you're struggling so much? And instead of being defensive, she lays the defenses down and she starts to really think about what's going on that would cause the behaviors or whatnot. Now, it also goes the other way around. A woman of value is also going to be someone who, when she knows that she's doing everything she can and it's still not enough, then there might be something wrong with the way that the other person is responding. And that's tough because it's hard for us sometimes to say, hey, listen, here's an issue that I'm seeing in your life and you're struggling with it. Being of value means that you are literally, a helpmate. You're there to help the other person in your life. And I think the struggle that we have is sometimes we do one or the other. We get so caught up in allowing them to help us, or we get caught up in only helping them. And so we have to be able to make that balance. And we have to be able to make sure that, we're taking care of ourselves, taking care of them, taking care of what's needed. It's not easy, it's just not easy to be a woman of value. However, it shouldn't be so difficult. So, like, little things should matter. And I know that this sounds really funny because there's people out there who say, don't sweat the small stuff. And it's true. In some areas, you don't want to sweat the small stuff. However, when it comes down to your relationships, sometimes it's the small stuff that's not getting taken care of that is going to cause the bigger problems. And when that's not addressed quick enough, it causes a great disaster, and it also causes a lot of heartache. And I can come to you and speak about heartache. That is probably the majority of what I've known my whole life. Now, have I also known lots of good love? Yes, I have. I've had moments of love where my mom was involved, moments of love where my dad was involved, moments of love where my children were involved, and moments of love where a significant other was there. It's hard. Life is difficult. When we prioritize the wrong things, when we don't care what the cost is, and we don't weigh out the cost before we even start the whole thing, whatever the thing is, when we're not being wise about our steps, we lose our foothold very quickly. A woman of value is a woman of integrity. She doesn't tear other people down just because it's easy to do. In fact, it's actually much more difficult to not be cynical about every single person. So a woman of value is someone who sees that there's a need, and if she can, she fills it. If not, she sees what she could do, or maybe somebody else could do about the situation. And if you're a believing woman in God, you pray for that person in that situation. And you really mean it. Like, you really want something good to happen. Having value is really it's such a broad expanse as a person, because again, we live in a society where it's all about us as women. At least that's what society is trying to make it all about. But the truth is, the very big truth is that it's not all about us. We're a part in a huge world. And the thing is even if our part is small, it can cause significant goodness, or it can cause significant damage. So that's where we need to think about, what's going on with our situations. There's some sayings like out of the mouth speaks your heart. Well, sometimes people don't know how to temper their mouth, and they don't know how to train their mind. That's difficult for a lot of people, and it's understandable because we're in a human flesh condition. But it doesn't mean that it's not something we can try to do. When you train your brain or retrain your brain, you're telling yourself that what was true back then is probably not true in this situation. For example, a woman of integrity, okay? I've been down the road where I was with someone who cheated on me, and he came to me and he apologized for the cheating. He wanted to see if we could keep trying the relationship. Now, because I am who I am, I took a little bit of time and I got through the emotions, and then I took the time to see if maybe that would work. It did not, because the problem is he didn't want to quit his problem, which was pretty much lust. All he could think about was women and, sex and whatever. And that's tough. Now, when I dated somebody else, he was not that way, but he needed a break. He needed time away. And it wasn't because of anything necessarily that I had done wrong. It was because he needed to breathe, so to speak. There's a difference in being a woman of integrity in both of those situations, and being a woman who's just all about herself. I could have, with the first situation, and very much been in the right to be so upset about it. And I was very, don't get me wrong, I was heartbroken, because for me, if I give you a piece of my heart, I just let you in. I'm one of those women. It's hard. It seems like it's easy to get in here, but it's actually kind of hard. And I put on a decent front, but when I finally let somebody in, there's a lot of things that change, usually for the better. However, with the situations, I could have been angry and bitter, and I could have completely run that guy out of town if I had just let my emotions flop out of my mouth and out of my heart the way that they were going all over the place. But in my mind, I knew that that wasn't the right thing to do. And that's a problem in our society, is we don't think about what the right thing to do is. We get caught up in our self-centeredness, and then we lose sight of caring. And when you lose sight of caring, well, it's just a matter of time before other things happen. It's like a effect, right? Now, the second situation, I could have been angry and responded as if he had done what the first guy did to me. I could have been like, guys are all the same, blah, blah, blah. But any woman of grit and value understands that that's not the truth at all, because not every woman's the same, And regardless of what people say, even if somebody calls you a unicorn, the unicorns, we still have problems too, right? It's the reality. We're in human flesh. And as women, we have to fight our emotions more than we have to fight, and our mindset more than we have to fight so many other battles in life. So I chose in that second, I chose to listen to what he actually said. And every time the little whispers in my ear of negativity started creeping up, I just chose not to listen to him. In my brain, I said, this is what he said. He reminded me I had value. He reminded me I was worth something. He reminded me that, you know, sometimes problems aren't with us necessarily as they're with, you know, them, and they're trying to figure it out. You know, everybody's got a battle they have to face, you know, and being worth your salt, you just know that you sometimes have to take the time to be there for somebody else in a way that is the most awkward way possible. The same person, the number two, he went through 11 months of a season with me of just outright, it was like every other day something was happening, and it wasn't like, some things were kind of normal, average car issues, blah, blah, blah. But because I was so upset about what I was already dealing with a whole nother issue from a while ago, it was just kind of one of those things where there's court and all that other stuff. It's just a lot to go through, and I'm not going to go into detail. But the point is that it was so heart-wrenching, and it was so hard for me at times to even just relax. And he helped me fight through that season. So as a woman of integrity, treating a man of integrity with respect, as much as it hurt me, I had to back off and say, you know what? He needs to breathe. He needs to be himself. He's got some things he's trying to do in his life. I've got to finish up this whole section of this chapter in my life, and I got to get it knocked out. And that's what I'm doing. Being of integrity is hard. People will cuss at you. They will come at you. They will get angry with you, and you have to stand your ground in a very disciplined way. I have fallen apart, and I have stood my ground. I've been on both sides of it. And I can honestly say that it's always worth it to stand that ground with a good, firm attitude of, I'm not going to give in to childish behaviors. I'm not going to give in to teenage behaviors. This isn't high school. This is real life, and these are real people, and these are real hearts. You know, when my kids were smaller, you know, one of the wisest things I ever heard a mom tell me, and it was wise, it was so wise. She said, your children are little people learning how to navigate life. And she was so right. Like, as soon as I looked at it like that, I was like, oh, he can't tell me how he feels, because I have young men, you know, boys at the time. He can't tell me how he feels because he's never felt this way before. He's angry. So I'd have to get down on their level and say, are you angry? I'd say, yes. Yes, Mama, yes. And I'd say, okay, is it because you smacked your foot? And he'd say, yes, Mama, yes. And it was just recognizing it. So it was like, I taught him how to recognize it. And then I also taught them now what they do now. It's all on their own, you know, they're grown men. But I taught them that anything that comes at you like that with feet and whatnot. Oh, excuse me. I just spent half the day trying to tear apart my car because my starter's in an awkward area, and there's 2 bolts on it, and 1 bolt doesn't want to come undone because it's stuck in there. So I'm making it rest. But anyway, what I taught the boys, you know, about the foot thing, smacking the feet, whatever the situation is, acknowledge that it's there. Understand that it's a part of life. And then do well with the rest of it. Like, do your best not to continue to stay angry. Do your best to continue to, you know, focus on the good in the middle of the bad and the tough situations. I fall short of this. I wouldn't be human if I didn't. And I'm not saying every woman of integrity and worth and, you know, is going to be perfect. But a woman worth dying for is someone that you can look at who puts value into your life and knows that you matter and acknowledges that you matter. She's the person worth putting salt into. When you see a woman, and this is funny because I remember my son recently played a little video excerpt that made me laugh really hard, but it actually made sense. When a man opens the door for a woman and gets her into his car and he goes around to the other side, does she try to unlock the door for him? Because if she tries to unlock the door for him, she's showing him that I have you. That's a little thing. Again, those little things matter. Is she going to perfectly do it every time? Is she going to be amazing and phenomenal every time? Well, we're human. So if we're super tired, sometimes we lack and we need to pick it up. But it made sense. And it reminded me of how many times I didn't do that for somebody.